trust you've had a great day. If not, Friday Briefing will make it better. Tonight we have the latest news from around the country. Plus, we have a very special guest anchor who will show you that persons living with visual impairment can also read the news. You have to stay tuned for that, together with, of course, Willis, the word master, for our pronunciation lessons. That's for now, but let's take our top stories tonight. Now, the United Nations Security Council has rejected the request by the African Union to defer the ICC cases against President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy William Ruto. Russia, China, Azerbaijan, Morocco, Togo, Rwanda and Pakistan all voted for Kenya, only to be defeated by abstentions from 8 members. James Smart begins our bulletin with this news of a major blow to Uhuru Kenyatta's bid to postpone his case.
After months of tough talk from African leaders in support of Kenya to defer the cases against President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto, lobbying and preparing for the resolution to be presented at UNSC, it was all built to this moment in New York at the UN Security Council. And the deferral of the Kenyan cases was dead on arrival. 7 members of the council voted in favor of the cases to be deferred for 1 year, not enough to push for the deferral. But with 8 abstentions, who include 7 ICC members and the US, had done but all the damage to a proposal backed heavily by African leaders and who pushed the cause to its logical conclusion.
The president was right when he said, as he campaigned for elections, that at that time, those were personal problems. He was not elected then into office. He was campaigning for office. The minute that he was elected into office, they stopped being personal problems. They first became national problems and eventually regional problems. And that is true of any sitting head of state on the continent and beyond.
The members who opted not to vote further complicate matters for the AU and Kenya in pushing for a political solution to the ICC cases, as the countries have in fact not given their opinion whether they are against the entire efforts or just parts of it. All eyes are now fixed on Kenya, and the big question is what next for Kenya, along with her supporters in the AU. Initially, there was some tough talk, with some members of the AU proposing a mass pullout from the Rome Statute by African states, but some countries immediately after resolution backed down, choosing rather to support the AU resolutions without the threat of a mass pullout. The debate now shifts from New York to The Hague, where the Assembly of State Parties this week is scheduled to hold a consultative meeting where Kenya is expected to present its grievances on the case against President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto. At the request of the African Union, there will be a special segment entitled Indictment of Sitting Heads of State and Government and Its Consequences on Peace and Stability and Reconciliation. James Smart, KTN.
Now, the International Criminal Court has ordered for the withdrawal of an unknown number of victims from the ongoing case against Deputy President William Ruto. A total of 93 victims had written to the ICC seeking to withdraw from the case. Samogina reports.
The matter of witness and victim security is on the spotlight once again, as an unknown number of victims are struck off from the case against Deputy President William Ruto and journalist Joshua Sang. A total of 93 victims had allegedly signed a letter to their legal representative expressing the intention to drop out of the case. Out of the 93, 47 victims were found to be within the scope of the case. After the intervention of the victim's legal representative, 7 out of the 47 victims in the case recanted their withdrawal letter, reasserting their victim status in this case. That left 40 victims still seeking to leave the case. The 3-judge bench ruled to have an unknown number of victims withdrawn from the case after at least 20 of them affirmed non-participation in the case. But the judges observed that they could still be reinstated as victims and even participate in reparation proceedings, if any. But this only if their safety and security is guaranteed.
Trial requires the physical.
Nonetheless, the judges ruled against Joshua Sang's application to be informed of the identities of the 40 victims who wished to withdraw from the case. The judges tasked the victim's legal representative to keep the court's registry abreast of any challenges in contacting any of the victims. This after 15 victims who petitioned for their withdrawal could not be reached, while 5 others were equally not reachable for reasons that the court has kept private. The court also ordered for enhanced security of the victims, directing the victim's lawyer to implore the Victims and Witness Protection Unit on any need for individualized security enhancement. Samogina, KTN.
Now, the Commonwealth Summit kicked off today in Colombo, Sri Lanka, but faced a major setback after several leaders, mostly from Africa, failed to show up. President Uhuru Kenyatta will not be attending the 3-day summit. Instead, President Kenyatta will be in Kuwait attending the 3rd East Africa Arab Summit. Najma Ismail explains why some African countries are boycotting the summit.
Early in the month, unconfirmed reports indicated that there was a ploy by African heads of state and government to boycott en masse the ongoing Commonwealth meeting. Traditionally, this occasion has been attended by almost all leaders whose countries were under the British rule in the colonial era. Later, 2 heads of state, Uganda's Yoweri Museveni and Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan, confirmed that they will not attend the Sri Lanka's meeting.
Countries relate with each other in a cordial manner. They are sensitive to the interest and the feelings of other states.
The lawyer explains that for the last 5 years, the African Union has sought to assert itself. It was thus expected that the international community would take AU resolutions seriously. It has not been the case.
If Britain, for purposes of exerting world influence, can be able to use the Commonwealth and its influence over other countries who are members of the Commonwealth, yet Britain does not repay this kindness that is extended to it. So any respectable nation, any honorable nation would have to decide at what stage it must continue playing the inferior state.
And on matters ICC, the lawyer says that it may be one of the major issues that has contributed to African leaders staying away from the summit.
I can never see the British Prime Minister and the British Queen being handed over by the British Army and their guard to some police of some court somewhere in Arabia or somewhere in Jerusalem. This would never happen.
President Uhuru Kenyatta will travel to Kuwait to attend the 3rd Africa Arab Summit. This is the first time that a Kenyan sitting president has skipped a Commonwealth meeting. Najma Ismail, KTN Friday Briefing.
Now, the umbrella body for teachers, KUPPET, has threatened to boycott the marking of the KCSE unless their demands are met. The teachers are demanding for a 300% increment in wages. They are also protesting against deplorable working conditions.
The workers be paid weekly so that the idea of raising their amount to colossal sums so that they attract taxation could not arise. And that is the basis upon which we are asking the Kenya National Examination Council to address the issues and not talk to us through Kenya National Union of Teachers. Because if they have agreed with KNUT that teachers be added 2 shillings per script, that is not part of the engagement that we expect. We expect an engagement which addresses the issue of raising the amount of the scripts by 300%. Secondly, the exams are being marked under deplorable conditions. Teachers in this country are not workers on site of construction. You cannot expect a professional to discharge professional mandates in classrooms where the same exams were done. That one compromises the quality of the work that the teachers do.
Non-governmental organizations have launched a campaign against the proposed new law seeking to regulate funding from foreign donors. The NGO Council now says the law is impractical. KTN's Wilson Buru with the NGO's concerns.
The government seems to have put itself on a collision course with NGOs over the proposed Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2013, which seeks to, among other things, control the amount of funding coming from outside the country. The contentious sections are contained in the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill 2013 as amendments to the Public Benefits Organization Act of 2013. It states that a public benefit organization shall not receive more than 15% of its total funding from external donors. The National Council of NGOs Administration Manager Fred Olendo says this would curtail its services heavily.
We should not have restriction on percentage. What we should have is that this money, when they come in, the government should know, then the council should know. Then we can have mechanism of monitoring how the money is being spent. Because if we talk about a percentage, then the people that are going to suffer are the beneficiaries.
Last week, civil society groups criticized the publication of the bill, saying they will stage demonstrations and pursue judicial redress to reject a scheme they allege is aimed at punishing a section of the civil society. The human rights organizations claimed that the government is out to muzzle the alternative voices that keep it in check.
This government seems to understand only one language: to control. Yet, we are talking about a government that came into power a few months ago on a wide public support and mandate. Why is it behaving as though it has some legitimacy deficit? Why all of a sudden? Why this state of panic?
However, the NGO Council says the bill in its entirety is not draconian, adding that there are some clauses that are necessary for their operations.
This issue of NGOs operating in secrecy, we are not for it. We want NGOs also to disclose, even to the communities, like if NGOs get money to support communities in Kibera, those communities, they need to know.
It is an issue that will continue making headlines in the coming weeks as the government on one side insists that the NGOs need to be reined in, while the NGOs insist that they do need the donor funding. Whether the two parties can actually sit down and come to a conclusion remains to be seen. Reporting in Nairobi, I'm Wilson Mburu.
Well, it's time to take a short commercial break. Don't go away. When we come back, Paul Mugambi will be joining us. He's very, very special. You do not want to miss it. Welcome back to Friday Briefing. Now, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has caved in to the pressure by members of the county assemblies to raise their salaries and allowances. This has ended an extended standoff between the two parties. Patrick Amimo reports.
The consensus comes after almost 3 days of intensive meetings with a team of members of the county assemblies that allowed the Salaries and Remuneration Commission to gather detailed information on the exact role of the MCS.
We have brokered the stalemate. So our understanding as SRC is there is absolutely no reason why the assemblies cannot go back to their assemblies.
The assemblies and members of county assembly were not on strike. They adjourned through the standing orders provided for. And they are going to convene by use of the same standing orders.
In the new deal, members of the county assemblies will get a mileage allowance of 39,500 shillings, up from the current transport allowance of 20,000 shillings. Members who live beyond 45 kilometers will claim an extra mileage allowance at applicable AA rates. MCS will now be entitled to a car loan of up to a maximum of 2 million shillings, payable at an annual interest rate of 3%. They will also benefit from a mortgage of 3 million shillings.
All these factors of the loans are subject to availability and provisions of fundings.
County assembly sittings have increased to a maximum of 8 paid committee sittings in a week. The allowances have also been reviewed, whereby the chairperson will get an upward of 6,500 shillings and members get 3,900 shillings from the current 3,000 shillings.
At a part of salaries, the commission chair requested that be given 1 week to complete. We have all agreed that going up from 79 is a must.
However, in a short message to newsrooms, the Secretary General of the Speaker's County Assembly Forum, Albert Kochei, said the county assemblies remain adjourned and that MCS will not accept the SRC deal. They want a comprehensive package as per the proposals they made to SRC in May this year. The Speakers Forum has accused their colleagues of having been hoodwinked to agree to a job evaluation before salary hike. The May proposals want minimum salary for MCAs to be pegged at 275,000 shillings.
We as the leaders of this country, we must have the spirit of give and take. We must agree to meet in the middle so that this country can move forward.
The rival team has also given proposals of a salary hike of between 275,000 shillings to 325,000 shillings. For now, at least a deal has been struck between the MCS and the Salaries Commission on allowances. Next week, the Salaries Commission is expected to give a figure on the monthly salary the MCS will be paid. The members insist they want a minimum salary of 275,000 shillings per month. Patrick Amimo, KTN, Nairobi.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has assured Rift Valley residents that measures will be taken to seek a lasting solution to the floods that have recently wreaked havoc. He spoke in Marigat District, Baringo County, where he had gone to assess the damage caused by the floods. President Kenyatta has also issued a stern warning to cattle rustlers, saying they will not be spared. Deputy President William Ruto, who accompanied the president, said the government is keen to ensure security countrywide. Baringo County Senator Gideon Moi asked the government to waive the 30 million shilling AFC loan issued to Eldama Ravine dairy farmers.
Watu wa Mogotio, kwa wewe kupata nafasi kuja imeanza kuwa mingi, imefunika hiyo hot springs yenye
Marakwet County. Hamjamboni.
Sasa mambo ya ile regulations nadhani
government ya kwamba jamii
kukukaribisha katika kaunti hii.
Kwa wale ambao wanafikiria ya kwamba wataendelea kuishi kama vile babu zao na babu zao na babu zao walikuwa wanaishi, tunataka wajue ya kwamba Kenya imebadilika. Jamani, Kenya imebadilika. Sasa hatuna nafasi ya wizi wa ng'ombe. Tunajiita digital, lakini mwingine bado anasukuma kule kuiba ng'ombe za wengine. Mambo haya lazima ikome. Na tunaambia wale ambao wanaendelea na mambo hayo ya kwamba sisi hatutahurumia mtu.
Mambo ya usalama, hatutaki kufanya mchezo tena. Mambo ya watoto ati hawaendi shule, ati shule imefungwa kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa usalama, ndio tumemwambia waziri yuko hapa na mumesikia atakuja hapa. Shule zote lazima sifunguliwe, watoto waende shule.
Zile shule ambayo imefungwa kwa sababu ya mambo ya usalama, tumekubaliana na mheshimiwa kama mawiki mbili kutoka sasa tunakuja kufungua naye na kiongozi wa hiyo area Madam Grace. Hiyo usalama itashughulikiwa. Wale askari watakuwa hapo, kama itabidi ongezwe wataongezwa, na tutaimarisha usalama.
Unfortunately walipata hiyo ng'ombe lakini kakufa wakati ile ugonjwa, nakumbuka ile ugonjwa inaitwa nini? ECF. Why I'm asking this one, Your Excellency, is because all other farmers from other counties who had taken this loan, they were forgiven the loan because of the situation which was at hand. So yale mimi naomba hata watu wetu hapa kwa Ravine, they should be forgiven on that loan like their compatriots ya wa Kenya wengine.
Right, so it's that time of a Friday briefing when we invite our guest anchor, and tonight we have a very special guest anchor. He is Paul Mugambi. He's a person living with vision impairment, also a humanitarian worker, and he's doing great things for this country. Paul, great to have you in studio.
Pleasure.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
Welcome to KTN.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, Paul, you really wanted to come to the show. We spoke some days ago, and you really wanted to come. How did you get to know about Friday Briefing?
I'm a fan of Kenya Television Network. And
that's good.
I really watch your news, and especially Prime News.
Prime News.
Yes.
All right. So, because you've been watching the show for quite some time, what were your best shows? Can you remember any show that stuck out?
One of the shows which struck out is, I think around September 20th there was...
You even remember the date?
Avril.
Oh, Avril.
Yes.
Okay. Why does it stick out?
The way she presented herself. I remember she came late to the studio that day, and she was somehow easy to go, and she learned and she did her best.
She did her best.
Yeah.
Okay. In your mind, how do you picture Avril looks? What is Avril in your mind? Is she fat? Is she big? What is she? Just maybe you can describe to us.
Okay. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, you tell us.
I think Avril looks brown.
Okay.
I think she has some long hair.
Long hair. Well, yeah, she kind of has some, not really long, but fairly long.
And I think she's not tall.
She's not tall. Yes,
I believe true. I'm taller than her.
You are taller than her. So you'd make a great couple. What else? What else?
I think she's a great musician.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What song do you like of hers? Do you like?
There's a song she did called Kitu Kimoja.
Okay.
Whereby she was trying to talk about issues of falling in love with a blind person.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
I would have loved to ask her some questions that day. How really she thought of this idea, and whether she has experienced that
in real life.
In real life, and whether she would be willing to date a blind person.
Oh, that is really
and
nice.
Whether if she can think of ensuring that issues of disability are known to the world, because her song is really touching on the social issues which really affect persons with disabilities and the outside world.
I called Avril because I wanted you to speak to her personally, but she's shooting her show. But she told me that right after the show, I'll give you her number and you'll be able to talk to her. I know you also want to do a collab with her because you're a musician, so I'll make that happen. I'll make sure that happens.
Let me let her know that I've already composed a song. It is called Disability is Not Inability.
So
and it is featuring what I think it's sort of a reply of Avril's song, but I would really love to do a remix of a song Kitu Kimoja, just to bring that aspect in the way really people can really understand that.
Yes.
You see many people say that love is blind.
Yes.
And you've never heard that people saying that love is sighted. So I think it's the high time that we really bring out these issues in the community, and people are aware on disability awareness and are able really to change the attitudes in the community.
All right, I like that. We'll talk a lot about that. Also, you'll be able to tell us, what attracts you. What's your ideal kind of woman? Is it Avril? Because it seems like you have sort of like a liking for Avril, but just hold that thought, but you'll be able to speak about that. For now, I want you to take that opportunity. I know you've been waiting for this moment. You told me that earlier. You have your braille paper. I believe that's what it's called. You showed me even how to braille it earlier on. Really interesting. And so I want you to introduce this story to our viewers, who I'm sure will be very impressed, I bet. All right, take it away.
Thank you. A British lady adventurer is flying solo in a 1942 open plane. Tracy Taylor landed at the Wilson Airport today. Taylor is on a 7,000-mile flight from South Africa to the United Kingdom. She made the same journey 85 years ago. Ian Wafula gives us more details.
With a top speed of 95 miles per hour and an operating ceiling of between 10,000 feet and 450 feet, the Boeing Stearman biplane was used as a trainer for the US Navy during the World War II. At least 8,500 Stearmans were built in the US between 1930s and 1940s. They later became popular as crop dusters, sports and aerobics planes after being sold to civilians. You are probably wondering how the 71-year-old plane is still up and flying. It was reconditioned by 3G Classic Aviation in Austria. The plane found its way to Kenya after Tracy Taylor stopped over on her 7,000-mile flight from Cape Town to London. Tracy, being a lover of flying, opted to commemorate the same journey taken 85 years ago by Lady Mary Heath.
So this is really a hobby now. I don't do this for a living. I do fly at air shows in England, and I'm based with a very historic collection there, which has the oldest flying aeroplanes in the world. So I'm in good company.
Largely forgotten today, Mary Heath was for a few years at the end of 1920s one of the most famous women in the world, known for her aviation skills. Tracy is enjoying every bit of her journey, making stops whenever she can for people to enjoy the historic plane.
I had a whole sheet of paper with me with all the frequencies and all the procedure into the airport, and it flew out the back as I tried to get my water bottle. So, I mean, it's hopeless, but that's the trick of flying open cockpit. It's just, you know, I can't let the controls go. There's no autopilot. It's very, very hands-on physical flying.
The plane is being serviced at Phoenix Aviation at the Wilson Airport before Tracy resumes her journey. Ian Wafula, KTN Friday Briefing.
Thank you very much, Ian, for that. You did so well.
Thank you.
I think I can give you a 9 out of 10.
Oh,
that's, I think, the highest I've given anyone on the show. I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
You're just proving that anyone can do this thing. Anyone can read the news. What does it mean to you?
I believe it is a journey because I remember some years back in 2006 when I cleared campus.
Yes.
We were really tammacking, and I really went to media houses, wanting really to do this job. And today, I think I've achieved one of the dreams of reading news, and I believe
that is good.
People have appreciated and have known that we can do it.
Trust me,
even better.
Yes. All right, now we're just about to wind up. Time is not on our side, but what can you say are the challenges that people with visual impairment face in this country? Because I know you are an advocate of the visually impaired.
Generally, what I can say about visual impairment is issue of access to information, which is which affects us in terms of getting the accessible format, and in terms of access to transport too, whereby we use public means, and sometimes the conductor might drop you at the wrong stage, or not because he's in a hurry. Maybe you are coming to town, you are coming to commercial, it drops you to Koja, and then, or maybe sometimes when you are on the, when you talk about communication too, the services which are being offered by our service provider, they are very good, but they are not accessible to the locally available phones, which are maybe Mulika Mwizi or the Chinese wear.
Yes,
so you have to get the programs which are high, and you have to buy really expensive phones so that you can be able to access this information. And lastly, the issue of representation and participation, whereby visually impaired persons do not participate. And another issue is about where persons' abilities generally are not being visible or in the public sector, so such that we cannot account the persons' abilities who have been employed or who are involved in development. This is something which needs to be done.
All right. Paul Mugabi will be continuing with this conversation a little bit later, but thank you very much. Stay put, enjoy everything, the Friday briefing. We'll be coming a bit later to you. Now, let's move on to a very interesting piece. As Kenyans celebrate 50 years of independence, the country is also at a point of renewal, with numerous opportunities created by the realization of a new constitution and strides in other sectors. Now, the country is facing some of the challenges that confronted it at the independence, but all is not lost, according to freedom fighters KTN spoke to. Now, in their view, the colonial government took advantage of the vulnerability of Kenyans. Although they were at the thick of things during the struggle for independence, the Mau Mau veterans, for the larger part, have nothing to show for it, but are nevertheless proud of what they did for Kenya.
For 50 years, the tales have been told and retold, and generation after generation, Kenyans know that their independence was not served on a silver platter, but rather through blood, sweat, and tons of strong will from those who were brave enough to say an emphatic no to the colonial powers. And who else to tell the story better other than those who were caught up in the emergency period in the 1950s when Kenyans put up a strong-willed fight against the British colonialists. 82-year-old Daniel Ndegwa's memory is frail due to his advanced age, but he quickly breaks into song when asked about his experiences in the forest as a young man when he joined his peers to fend off the enemy. Mombi Washira is not sure of her age. Education for most was a pipe dream as they had to drop all they had to take up different roles in the Mau Mau War. But she tells her story with amazing clarity, and she too, like Ndegwa, can recall the songs they sang then and the hardships they had to endure. When the colonialists arrived in Kenya, the locals said they did not know what hit them. All they knew is that they lost their land, their property, their loved ones. They wanted him out of Kenya and back to his country. And today, are they happy with their role in securing Kenya? Events that changed their lives forever. And we are interested to know what, in their view, is the reason that the British colonial masters set camp in Kenya, and specifically what tactics were used to outwit the Africans such that in no time the land they owned was no longer in their hands.
Wakati sisi tulianza kutengeneza mapambano yetu naye kumuitisha haki yetu, ndio alitoa funduki, akatoa mashokafu, akatuambia hii ni nchi yake koloni, nasi tukamwambia hii ni nchi yetu.
Walikuwa natoa amri, mtu akiwa katika squatter anakuwa na mbuzi 15 kodoo, lakini ng'ombe hapana.
Anza kuona vita, watu wanakibizana, askari wanakuja na kofia nyekundu na mabuduki, wakibisa wa Afrika wakikuu wenzatu kutoka vijiji nilikuwako, wakifikiza wakanasema ni maramari wanatafuta.
Ezekiel Nderito is a relative to Mokami Kimathi, Field Marshal Dedan Kimathi's widow. Ezekiel narrowly escaped death when a bullet tore through his thigh, exiting from the front.
Ni Johnny nilifika. Wakati hiyo majoni ilikuwa inaletwa hapa, kwa sababu wakati huo kuliletwa majendo 3 ya kupigana na Mau Mau. Eskin, Chachihiro, Letoton, walikuja kupigana na Mau Mau.
And while Kenya applauds the efforts of the freedom fighters who gave their all to unchain Kenya from the yoke of colonialism, the division and disagreements amongst the Mau Mau continue to work against their interest. Anthony Maina, the assistant curator of the Nyeri Museums, says the cracks have worsened since the compensation.
Been working with them since I came to Nyeri 5 years ago, and there's a lot of conflicts among them. You can find them, there are about 12 different organizations for Mau Mau.
Even though about 5,000 freedom fighters have been compensated by the current British government, others who felt left out have come up to lay stake, claiming they too were tortured. They plan to file new cases despite their advanced ages, but for now, they're asking the Kenyan government to fulfill its promise of uplifting and rewarding them for their role in liberating Kenya.
My name is Paul Mugambi, your guest anchor for Friday Briefing. Let's take a short commercial break. Business is up next.
With more.
Report dated 12 November 2013, Parliament's Departmental Committee on Labour and Social Welfare upheld the proposal that will see contributions to the pension funds increased substantially. Currently, all Kenyan workers pay a standard contribution of 200 shillings per month, regardless of one's income level. The new proposal will, however, see this graduated to 12%, with employer contributing 6% and employee an additional 6% of the monthly salary. The increase in contributions has previously generated debate among Kenyans, with questions being raised on the giant pension fund ability to safeguard workers' interest. During its committee sitting, several groups presented petitions to Parliament urging against the increase. More prominent were the calls that the clause had the potential of wiping out of the market the 1,217 retirement schemes in Kenya, just like it did in neighboring Uganda and Tanzania. The report also proposed that the managing trustee of the fund will be appointed by the Cabinet Secretary for Labour out of a list of 3 nominees by the board. The candidate will then serve on a one-term 6-year contract. Since drafting, the Federation of Kenyan Employers and the Central Organization of Trade Union (KOTU) have been uneasy, citing exclusion from the board of the trustee going forward. KTN Business has learned that the two organizations are slated to meet on Tuesday next week for a way forward. Philip Ketan, KTN Business.
Now, Nakumatt Holdings has stepped up the fight for retail customers with the opening of its 18th store within Nairobi. The 150 million shilling store, to be opened on Saturday in South Sea, comes just weeks to the planned opening of yet another metropolitan store at Lavington by mid-December. The news comes just months after South Africa's mass market opened talks with Naivas Supermarket of the possibility of a takeover. The talks, however, hit a brick wall, according to media reports. Nakumatt, which targets middle and upper income customers, has 40 branches in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania and Rwanda, and hopes to open outlets in Djibouti, South Sudan and Burundi. The retailer is in the process of raising equity to fund its ambitious expansion strategy. And that's business.
KTN Business, in association with Safaricom Self-Care.
To get your M-Pesa statement, PUK, Bonga Points and more without calling customer care or visiting a Safaricom shop, simply log on to www.safaricom.co.ke and click on Self-Care.
Let's bring you an update of a story we heard earlier on. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has reacted to the UN Security Council decision to defer Kenyan case. Here is part of the statement. Kenya takes note of the outcome of the United Nations Security Council meeting on peace and security in Africa, and specifically on the subject of the request for deferral of the Kenya ICC cases. Kenya wishes to thank China, Azerbaijan, who during their stewardship of the Security Council have been professional and sensitive to the African Union agenda. Kenya wishes to thank the 7 members of the Security Council who voted for a deferral, and is particularly grateful to Rwanda, Togo and Morocco, the 3 African members on the Security Council, for their exemplary leadership. This result was not expected, considering that consistently some of the members of the Security Council who hold veto powers had shown contempt of the African position. The same members and 5 others chose to abstain, showing clear cowardice in the face of critical African matters and a lack of appreciation of peace and security issues they purport to advocate. That is part of that statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Time for another favorite segment on Friday Briefing, that is Mind Your Language. Since we started, we have learned the correct pronunciation of certain words. For instance, you do not say mischievous, but you say mischievous. Or you do not say tortoise, but you say tortoise. And tonight we continue with our articulation classes with none other than Willis, the word master. Willis, it has quite been a journey. It has been quite a journey here on Mind Your Language.
A journey indeed, Betty, and I always say when there is something that is worth doing, it must just be done thoroughly, and that has been all about our journey.
Couldn't have been put better. Now, let's get straight to it. Do we say the cabinet secretary is efficient, or do we say the cabinet secretary is efficient?
If you allow me, Betty, I'll begin by saying efficient. Efficient. Most people say efficient, and all that, but the word is efficient. Then we say secretary, secretary. Just the way we have military, sanitary, monetary, and all that. But there is nothing wrong with secretary, military, or sanitary if one is unable to say tree in the ending of that word.
All right. Okay, let's move on to that condition whereby a person does not have enough red blood cells in their body. What is the correct pronunciation of that condition?
I know why you asked that, Betty, or whoever is our viewer who sent in that word, because in Kiswahili people find themselves saying anemia, anemia. But the English pronunciation for that word, Betty, is anemia. Letter A and E combine to form the long vowel sound E, just like in aesthetic. Aesthetic. We don't say aesthetic. Aesthetic. We also say anesthetic. Anesthetic or anesthesia. Anesthesia. Very tricky words.
Anesthesia. Willis, you never cease to amaze. Let's move on to the other word. What's the correct pronunciation of this word? Let me spell it out. B-U-R-Y. B-U-R-Y.
We say berry. Berry, and not bury as commonly mistaken by non-native speakers of English language. So, Betty, we talk of bury, burial, buried, not bury, burial, buried. In this word, letter U takes a rare or exceptional sound value A.
All right, what about the tube? I don't know if you know this, of course you know this tube in which food passes while it's heading to the stomach, where in science, I remember back in the day we said esophagus in primary school.
That word is not esophagus, and we should also not say oesophagus. The correct pronunciation is esophagus. Esophagus, since the letters O and E at the onset or the beginning of that word, the two letters combine to form the sound E. We call them vowel digraphs. Vowel digraphs, such kind of letters which combine to form a sound when there are two letters. So we say esophagus, just like we say estrogen. Estrogen. We also say fetus. Fetus. We also have phoenix. Phoenix, not phoenix.
Now, still on matters food, do we say lettuce or lettuce?
None of the two. We say lettuce. Lettuce. The word is pronounced as lettuce. I know that may be a surprise to you, Betty, but these are some of the very, very tricky English words. Just like the word spinach. When you look at spinach, what you'll be seeing is spinach. And many people say spinach, but the word is pronounced as spinach. So lettuce, not lettuce, not lettuce.
Spinach. Willis, are you spinach? That's a new one. Never heard of that before. Spinach and lettuce. Wow.
Lettuce.
All right, so let's take a few questions from our viewers. One, Brian, wanted to know which is the correct pronunciation. Do we say blessed or do we say blessed?
Another tricky one. Anyway, as the past tense of the verb bless, we say blessed. The pastor blessed the children. Blessed the children. But when we are talking about an adjective, the same word is now pronounced as blessed. Blessed or blessed. That is to mean holy, lucky, or good. Blessed Sunday. Have a blessed evening and all that, not a blessed.
All right, thank you very much, Willis, the word master. You are teaching us a lot of English pronunciations that we never got to learn in primary school, secondary school. Thank you very much. And that has been Mind Your Language on KTN Friday Briefing.
And also coming up in sports, Kisumu County in last-minute preps for Sekafa.
You are watching KTN Friday Briefing.
On sports today, I am Nicholas Mudima. From its inauguration 7 years ago, the KAS International Marathon has continued to become an athlete's favorite as it is organized in their backyard Eldoret. Victor Gale has the latest from the land of champions.
Elgeyo Marakwet County, Uasin Gishu and Nandi counties are the known homes of Kenya's star athletes. And since the invention of the KAS International Marathon, budding athletes have been accorded opportunities to hone their skills. The KAS Marathon has not only handed them the keys to athletic success, but has also enabled their kin to watch them closely since the race has been staged right in the heart of the conveyor belt.
Upcoming athletes wanakumbana sana na maneno ya fedha. So kwa hivyo unaona ni karibu iko nyumbani, mtu anaweza attend.
Ni vizuri ukiparticipate ya nyumbani, maybe unaweza pata sponsorship, ulipewa ticket kwenda kuparticipate nje.
Elgeyo Marakwet County, dubbed the home of champions, does not only encourage its youth to participate in sports, but has gone a step further by paying registration fees for the first 100 athletes who have shown interest in to run on Sunday.
Hata kuonyesha kwamba hata mwenyejiwezi anaweza omba hata mtu shilingi 200 na anaweza kuparticipate na mwisho anaweza faulu kimaisha.
According to me, kama mimi nikienda huko mimi naenda kuona ile time yenye nitamalizia. That one will be my best achievement according to what I'm planning.
Registration closes on Friday and the organizers say there will be no extension. A total of 7.5 million shillings will be competed, with the winner pocketing 1.5 million shillings. The annual KAS International Marathon to many athletes is a blessing despite the tough competition and the tough terrain as it is organized in their own backyard. Victor Ogale, KTN, Ini10, Elgeyo Marakwet County.
Alright, time is not on our side, but finally, after the Football Federation Chairman Sam Nyamoya raised questions over Kisumu's ability to host the Sekafa tournament, Kisumu County has expressed confidence in the stadium's refurbishment progress and that the county will host the games. Meanwhile, Kenya has been pooled in Group A alongside Ethiopia, South Sudan and Zanzibar in a draw that's conducted today.
We can't confirm Kisumu because they haven't quite finished the stadium.
After this statement from Football Kenya Federation, Kisumu County has now upped its game in readiness for hosting the Sekafa tournament that will be kicking off in the country from 27th of this month. Machakos, Nairobi and Mombasa counties were the three counties to host the tournament, but Kisumu's slow pace of refurbishing the stadium was notable, but the county government is upbeat of completing the works on time.
Sorted out the issue of the dump site, and it's a beautiful place. You can see we are smelling very fresh here now.
The government has meanwhile pledged to support FKF in the coming Sekafa showpiece, a proper timing in which Kenya will also be celebrating its 50 years of independence.
If there are any other things that we need to wrap up in terms of making sure the players from all these neighboring regions come and enjoy the Kenyan hospitality to its fullest.
Machakos, we are ready. We've transformed a dusty ground into a football pitch and stadium within 4 weeks.
Last year, we said no, we will not do it because we were preserving this edition to happen when Kenya is at 50.